Hello everyone, welcome to Zoho Sheet's webinar. This is Jaya Shankari, and in today's webinar we'll be looking at how we can create spreadsheet trackers using the various features available in Zoho Sheet. So let's get started. So this will be the agenda for the webinar. First we'll look at a brief introduction about the spreadsheet trackers, and then we'll look at the list of features that you can use to create such spreadsheet trackers, and finally we'll look into a product demonstration where I'll be showing you how we can build a spreadsheet tracker using the various features available in Zoho Sheet. So spreadsheet trackers are nothing but those spreadsheets that you can use to record a series of daily, weekly or monthly data records based on your use case. And these spreadsheets can also be further used to analyze and break down or even summarize those recorded data that you have. So in order to analyze and summarize your data, you can use features such as formulas and charts and pivot tables, etc. You can create and use these spreadsheet trackers for recruitment, sales, marketing, stocks, or any other domain that you are working on. So you can create a spreadsheet tracker based on your use case. So these are some of the features that you can use to create spreadsheet trackers in Zoho Sheet. So I've only mentioned a few features here because I'll be using these features in the demonstration. Whereas you can pick any other feature that is available in Zoho Sheet in order to create your personalized spreadsheet tracker as well. So here you can see that we have Picklists and data validation for data entry process and to maintain consistency while entering those data records. And then we have formulas in order to analyze and break down the data that you have in your spreadsheet. And then we have pivot tables in order to consolidate and summarize the data that you have. And then we have charts to visualize the data, conditional formats to highlight desired data, and we also have filter in order to narrow down and view specific data easily in an instant. So apart from these features that I've listed, you can also use other features such as sorting options. That is, in order to sort your data records, you can use sorting, and then you can also use checkboxes if needed based on your use. So there are various other features that you can also make use of while creating your spreadsheet tracker. So now we'll jump into the demonstration, and I'll be showing you how these spreadsheet features can be used in order to build a spreadsheet tracker in Zoho Sheet. So this is the spreadsheet I'll be using for the demonstration. So in this demonstration, I've taken up the example of spreadsheet tracker as the recruitment tracker. So here I'll be showing how we can create an example recruitment tracker using the various features. So here we have 4 different worksheets. So first up we have the dashboard. So we'll come to this dashboard sheet later on. So we'll go to the second worksheet now. So this is the worksheet where I'll be recording the data sets I want. So this is the most important part of any spreadsheet tracker where all your data will be available. So here we have the hiring manager, the team which has openings, and then we have the number of positions available, and then we have the stream or domain in which the openings are available, and then we have the designations, and then we have the date of opening or the date on which the request was raised, and then we have the HR in charge, that is the human resource person who's responsible for that particular recruitment process, and then we have the status of that particular request, and then we also have the date of closing. So if any request is completed, that particular column can be filled. So this is just an example that I've created based on your business use cases and your preference. You can change the values that you want to record in your spreadsheet. So here, as you can see, I've left certain columns empty because I'll be showing how we can make the data entry process a little more quick and consistent using the various features available. That is, I'll be using data validation and Picklist in order to fasten up the data entry process and also make it a little more consistent. So now before I start applying the data validation and Picklist features, I'll just show the rest of the worksheets that we have. So the third worksheet here is designation. So here you can actually see I have the list of streams or the domains available in the organization, and I also have the designations that are corresponding to each stream. So I'll be using this as a source for my data validation later on. So in this worksheet you can see I have the list of team members that are available in the HR team. So coming back to the records worksheet. So now let's see how we can apply data validation on these ranges. So first we'll be working on the stream column here. So here, when you want to apply data validation on a range, select the desired range first, and then you can go to data validation, and under that you can find the option called create validation. So once you click on create validation, you can see the various options available for you to customize the data validation conditions. So here I'm not going to touch into the basics of the features that I'll be showing in this demonstration. If you would like to know more about the basics or the complete customization features available in the features that are shown in this video, you can refer our recorded webinar videos link in the description, where we have already covered most of the features, basics, as well as the customization options. So you can watch those videos if you are interested in those features as well. So as I mentioned previously, here I'll be using the cell range in the third worksheet as the source for this particular data validation. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a drop down with the list of the stream values that we saw in the third worksheet. So for that, in the criteria drop down, choose cell range. So here I'll be giving a cell range as the source for this particular validation. So I'll go to the source worksheet, and here, so this will be the source range for my data validation here for the streams column. So once I've chosen the desired source range, so here you can see the reference being shown. So sorting a drop-down list will make it a little more easier for you to navigate between the values when you're actually entering the data. So you can simply check it on. So once we have given the source for this particular drop-down list, we'll just click on OK. So now you can see a small drop-down or an arrow icon here on this cell. So simply click on that particular icon and you can see the drop-down list being shown here. So from the cell range that we selected as the source, you can see the values being displayed here in the stream column. So this way you can create data validations in order to fetch values from a particular cell range that you have. So apart from choosing directly from the drop-down, you can also start entering the values, and you can see the corresponding suggestions being shown below the cell. So this makes it even easier for you to enter values in the particular worksheet. Let's move on to the next column, that is the designation column. So here this designation column is supposed to give values that are corresponding to the values in the stream column. So if you're going to manually refer the third worksheet for each designation and enter those values, that will take a really long time, and the data entered may not be consistent when you have many people working on the same spreadsheet file. So for that, we'll be creating another data validation condition here. So first we saw a simple data validation using which we can create a drop-down list directly from a cell range, source cell range, whereas now we'll be seeing a more advanced version of the same condition, where we'll be creating the drop-down list using data validation, where the values in the drop-down list will be changing corresponding to the value in the stream column. So now we'll see how we can do that. So I'm selecting the cell range on which the data validation must be applied. So similar to the previous data validation we saw, the criteria for this validation will also be cell range. So as I said, we'll be giving the condition in such a way that the drop-down list will be shown contextual to the values in the stream column. So for that, I'll be using the XLOOKUP function now. So I'll just start typing in the function's name. So if you need any help with any function that you are using in data validation or any other feature like conditional formatting, etc., you can use the FX option here on the right side panel. Just open the FX option, and here you can start typing in the function that you're using. And once you select the desired function here in this side panel, you can see the description of the function along with the function's syntax and the syntax description, etc. So here for XLOOKUP, you can see the syntax being shown here. So in this syntax, as you can see, first we'll have to give the lookup value, that is the value that we want to search for. And then we'll have to give the search table, that is the range in which you want to search for the value. And then we have the result table, that is the range from which you want the values to be taken from. And then we have three optional parameters also. These optional parameters can be added if desired, or they can be just left blank. So here I'm using the XLOOKUP function, but you can also use any other function that you want based on your use case. You can also use the ifs function for this use case. So now I'll just start typing in the function here. So as we saw, the first parameter is going to be the lookup value. So that will be the values I have in the stream column here. So I'll select the range here. So here I'm just going to change the cell reference to relative so that the value changes based on the data record. And after that, we'll have to give the search table, that is the range where I'll have to look for this particular value. So that will be the designation worksheet, the range I have here. That is, I have the stream names already given here. Here I've chosen the cell range in which I want the value to be searched for. And based on the position of the value that is being searched for here, I want the corresponding results to be taken from this range. So there we go. So we have given the search value, we have given the search table, we have also given the result table. And now the fourth parameter is an optional parameter. So if you want, you can give a value or you can just finish the function here. So now I'm just giving a value, for example, saying not found. So in case the value that you're searching for is not found, this particular value will be displayed. So now that we have actually given the function that we want for this particular data validation condition, you can simply give OK. So now here, let's see how the drop-down lists are being shown for each stream value that we have in column D. So now the first value that we have in stream is designing. So let's see what drop-down list values are being shown for this. So you can see the drop-down list values are being shown based on the stream that is designing. So you can see animator, illustrator and UX designer being shown. Now we'll see for marketing. So you can see the corresponding values being shown in the drop-down. Similarly, for the other values in stream column as well, you can see the corresponding values being shown in the drop-down here. So this way, you can create your customized drop-down list based on the values that you have in another cell range as well. So now that we have seen how we can use data validation for filling in the stream as well as the designation columns, we'll move on to the next column, that is the HR in charge. The data validation that I'm going to use in this particular column is going to be similar to what we used in the stream column. So I'm going to use a cell range directly as a source for this particular drop-down list that I'm going to create right now. Choose cell range. So here we have the team members of the HR in charge names here. So I'll choose the range. So now we have chosen the source cell range that we want. You can do other customizations if you prefer, but here I'm just going to give OK. So now we have created the drop-down list with the name of the HR team people. So here you can simply click on the desired name that you want, or as I said previously, you can simply start typing a name and the corresponding suggestions will be shown in the drop-down. So this is how you can use data validation in order to make your data entry process more quick and consistent. So now we'll move on to the next column, that is the status column. So the status column is going to denote in what stage this particular request is in. Let's say we have 3 stages in which we can classify these requests as. So the first is going to be yet to take, the second will be in progress, and the third will be closed. So that way the HR team can actually know what stage the particular request is in. So now I'm just going to use Picklists in this particular column. So since we have only 3 values, I'm going to go with Picklist. And another advantage with Picklist is you can also give a predefined format for each value, and that format will be applied whenever this particular value is selected in this cell as well. So now I'm just going to enter 2 values here in order to show another advantage of Picklist here. So you can see I have entered 2 values, that is yet to take and closed. So just like data validation, first select the range on which you want to apply the Picklist on, then go to Insert, Picklist and click on Create. So in this Create Picklist dialog, you can see that the 2 values that we already have in the cell range are automatically taken up in this Picklist dialog. So this way, even if you have some pre-filled values in your cell range, those values will be taken up automatically in the Picklist dialog, so you need not enter them again manually. So now I'll enter the third value, that is in progress. So here I'm not giving any predefined formats for this particular pick list because I will be using conditional formats later on after this. So I'm just going to go with the particular list I have here and click on create. So now you can see the small arrow icons being shown here. That indicates that this range contains pick list. So no other values other than those that are present in this particular drop down or pick list can be entered in this particular cell range. So here you can see the values being shown here. Just like data validation, you can either start entering the value and then choose from the drop down, or you can choose from the drop down directly as well. And after that, finally we have the date of closing column here. So here you can simply type in the date once the particular request is closed. So in Zoho Sheet, there's also another nifty feature where if you have a cell with a date entered, you can simply double click on the cell and you can see the calendar widget being shown just below the cell. So it just makes it easier for you to choose the particular date if you want to customize the date. So you can also make use of this calendar widget in your spreadsheet as well. So now we have seen the features that can be used for data entry and for creating these data records in the spreadsheet tracker. Now let's move on to the other features that can also be used for highlighting or even analyzing the data records that we have. So first we'll look at conditional formatting and how that can be used to highlight the desired data. So here in this particular data set that I have, I want to highlight those requests that are yet to be taken up and the requests are actually older than 30 days from the date of issue or the date of opening. So by highlighting those records alone, I will know which requests actually need the immediate attention from the HR team. So I can prioritize the requests or tasks as well. So I'll be giving two conditions for the conditional formatting that I'll be using now. That is, the date on which the request was raised must be greater than 30 days and the status of the particular request must be yet to take. So if both these conditions are met, I want that particular data record to be highlighted for me. So now let's see how we can do that. So to apply a conditional format, you can go to Format and under Conditional Formatting, you can see the different types of conditional formatting options available. That is Classic, Color Scale and Icon Set. Now we'll be using the Classic conditional formatting. As I said previously, if you'd like to know more about these features in detail, you can take a look at our recorded webinar link that I've given in the description below. Before we start with the conditions, first we'll select the range on which I want this formatting to be applied on. So that will be the whole data range I have here because I want the whole record to be highlighted. And here I'll be choosing the formula type here because I'll be giving two different conditions based on which I want the format to be applied, and those conditions will be given in the form of formulas right now. So just like how we did in the data validation previously, here I'll be giving formulas in order to specify my condition for this particular conditional format. So for this I'll be using three different formulas as a nested formula here. So first will be if followed by days. So what days function does is that it gives you the difference between the two different dates that you specify within the days function. So this way, as I said previously, my first condition is that the date on which the request was raised must be greater than 30 days. So now I'm just going to mention that the difference between today, that is the current date, I'm using the today function for it, so it becomes dynamic and I need not specify a specific date every single time. So I'll give today, and this particular cell reference here that actually specifies or indicates the date on which the request was raised. So here when you are selecting the cell reference, make sure that you specify the absolute references as well. So here I want the column to remain constant or absolute, whereas the row can be relative because it has to change based on the data records. So if the difference between these two dates is greater than 30, so I'll give greater than 30. And so now my first condition is done, so I'm going to go to the second condition. So I'm using two ampersand symbols, which means and if the value in this particular cell, that is the status cell, equals yet to take, meaning the request is not yet taken into process. So I've given my second condition here as well. So if the difference between those two dates is greater than 30, and if the value in the status column or the cell is yet to take, then I want that particular data record to be highlighted with this format, that is the red font and cell background. So now I've given the conditions for the format. I've also given the predefined format I want. You can also customize other formats if you want based on your preference. Now I'll click on OK. So here you can see that those records where the date of opening exceeds 30 days and the status is yet to take, they've been highlighted with the format that we saw previously. So just to show the difference here, I'll select another value with yet to take. And here you can see that this particular record is not being highlighted because the date does not exceed 30 days difference. So here, this way you can highlight the data records that you have in your spreadsheet based on the specific conditions that you want. So this is just an example of how you can use conditional formatting to actually highlight those desired data records that you have in your spreadsheet. So now what if you want to actually look at another specific set of data at an instant? So for that you can use the feature called filter. So filter is a very commonly used feature in any spreadsheet application. So most of you must be familiar with the filter functionality as well. So in order to apply a filter, you can simply place the cell anywhere in the row and click on the filter icon here in the toolbar. And you can see the filter icon being shown in that particular cell range. So in order to filter the data set that you have in your spreadsheet, simply click on this icon. And you can see the values based on which you can filter your data. So here, if I want to filter the data based on the stream marketing, so if I want to see requests on, in the marketing stream alone, I can simply click on marketing and choose filter. There we go. You can also filter the data based on the font color or the cell background color as well. So we saw how we can highlight the records based on conditional formatting. If you want to see those highlighted records in the filter, you can give the condition as the red cell or font color as well. So here you can see that the record based on the marketing stream alone is being shown now. And if you are going to use this particular filtered view often, that is if you're going to switch between various filtered views on a daily basis, or if you're going to see it frequently, you can even save this filtered view here using this option called name this filter. So just give it a name and click on OK. So this particular filtered view will be saved. So I'll show you how that works. So now I'll just clear the filter so we can see all the data records here. So now if I want to quickly look at those marketing related requests alone, I can simply go to the filter icon, and here you can see an option called named filters, and you can find all the saved filter views here. So I'll click on marketing roles, and you can see the filtered view in an instant. So this way, if you want to switch between various filtered views, you can simply save those filtered views and use them for a quicker access. So now that we have actually worked on the worksheet containing the data records, let's move on to the dashboard worksheet and see how we can actually create a dashboard using charts and pivot tables and a formula in order to summarize or get conclusions from the various data records that we have in this particular worksheet. So now you can see just one value that I've mentioned here, that is total current openings. So this value is supposed to indicate how many open positions I currently have in the organization, irrespective of the stream or designation. So for this, I'll have to count all the number of open positions that are present. So for this, I'm going to use a formula called SUMIF. So simply click on the function name and you can see the syntax below. So in this function, first we're going to give the test range, and then the condition, and then the range that is supposed to be summed up. So first I'll go to the second worksheet, which is actually going to be the data based on which this formula will act. So here you can see the formula cell being shown for reference. So the test range for me here will be the status column, because I want the number of positions that are still open and not filled yet. So for that, I'm going to take the status column into consideration, because based on that only I'll have to do the summing. Test range will be the status column here, and followed by that we'll give the condition. So the condition here is supposed to be not equal to closed, because I want both the in progress and yet to take status to be taken into count, because both of those status, that is in progress and yet to take, means that the position is not yet filled. And after the condition, I'll give the range that is supposed to be totaled. So that will be the number of positions here, because I want the number of positions to be taken into count and not the number of requests. So once we have given the respective cell references for the formula, we'll just click on and there we go. So here you can see that the total number of current openings is actually 24, and each time you update the data record in that particular worksheet, the count here will automatically get updated based on the status. We'll start building the pivot tables for data consolidation. So the source of all the pivot tables that we'll be building in the dashboard will be the data set that we have in the second worksheet. So to build a pivot table, go to data and click on pivot table. So in this create pivot table dialog, you can see the options in order to choose the source range for your pivot table. So I'll go to the second worksheet for that. And here I'll be choosing the whole data set as the source. So once the source range is given, then the next one will be the location of the table. So here you can either create the pivot table in a new worksheet or an existing worksheet. Since I already have the dashboard worksheet, I'll go with the existing worksheet option. And for the location, I'll choose the dashboard worksheet and the cell on which I want the pivot table to be constructed. So there are two ways in which you can do this process. That is, you can either create the pivot table from the destination worksheet as I'm doing it right now, or you can create the pivot table in the source worksheet itself, and then you can move the pivot table to the desired worksheet later on. So whichever is convenient for you, you can do that. So here, once I've given the source and the location for the pivot table, I'll click on OK. So on the left, you can see an image indicating the position or the location in which the table will be placed. And on the right, you can see the various fields that are being shown in the side panel. So this is the pivot table builder. So all you have to do is simply drag and drop these fields into the respective boxes here. That is for the column, row, filter, or even the data values. And you can see the pivot table getting constructed simultaneously on the left. I'm going to construct a pivot table that gives me a summary on the number of positions based on the team as well as the stream. So here the first row will be team for me. So you can see the teams being shown on the left, followed by the stream or the domain. So you can see the pivot table getting built simultaneously on the left. You can see the blank values being shown here. That is because I did not fill some cells in the actual data records that we saw previously. So if you have any blank cells like that, those will be shown as blank here. And followed by that, we'll be giving a value for the data, that is the number of positions here. So by default, you can see that the operation taken here is sum. If you want to change the operation by which the data is consolidated, you can simply click on this small arrow icon, and in this drop down, you can choose the operation by which you want to consolidate your data as well. So now I want the total number of positions, so I'll go with sum itself. And apart from this, there are also other customization options that you can use in the pivot table. I'm not going to go deeper into those options here, but I'll just mention two options that are available here, that is auto expand and auto refresh. So these two options will make sure that your pivot table gets updated every time the records worksheet is being updated from your end. But if you do not want your pivot table to get automatically updated based on the records in your other source worksheet, you can simply uncheck these options as well. So now that we have the pivot table ready, I'm just going to draw a pivot chart keeping this pivot table as the source. So for that, all you have to do is just click on this option called pivot chart here, and in a single click you can see the chart being inserted into your worksheet. So here you can see the chart on the left. So this is the pivot chart that is based on the pivot table that we saw on top. So you can see that we have small widget on the right side of the chart, that is the filter widget for the pivot chart. So you can simply filter the data in your chart here using this widget here. So if you want to see the data for a particular team or for a particular value alone, you can simply click that value and choose filter, and you can see the chart is showing the data for that particular team alone. And similarly, you can see the pivot table on top is also getting updated based on the filter that is present in the chart here. So now I'll clear the filter. So once you've inserted the chart, you can also customize the chart based on your preference here using the side panel customization option. So here under customize, now you can see the various options available for customizing the chart as well. I'm going to remove the legend because that is not necessary for this particular chart. And you can also add a chart title and subtitle to add more context to this particular data to just indicate what this chart actually shows. So now we have seen how we can build the pivot table to show the team and the stream wise total of the number of positions, and build a pivot chart from the pivot table that we have just built. So now I'm going to build a pivot table using which I can actually monitor the activities of the HR team as well. So this pivot table will have the data consolidated in terms of the HR people as well as the status. So now we'll see how we can do that. So in this dialog, similar to what we saw previously, I'm going to choose the source and the location for the pivot table. So I'm going to choose this cell as the location and click on OK. So you can see the image indicating the location of the pivot table. And on the right, we have the pivot table builder as well. So as I said, the pivot table here will be based on the HR team as well as the status. My row will be HR in charge, and I'm going to add a column, and my status values will be the columns here. So on the left, you can see that we have the columns ready. We also have the rows ready, but we do not have the exact data or the values by which this pivot table must be consolidated by. So for that, I'm going to add the status column again for the data. So here you can see that the default operation is taken as count. So here this gives us the count of requests based on the status values that we have in the data records. So this way I can know how many requests are still pending or how many have been closed by each HR person in the team. So similar to this pivot table, we'll build another pivot table to show us a consolidation of how many number of positions are actually available for each stream or each domain. So it will be easier for me to actually know how many positions are available for each domain, such as marketing or designing, and I can look for the respective people based on the number of positions as well. So when you're building pivot tables that are a little similar to the already built pivot tables in your spreadsheet, you can also clone these tables in order to make minor customizations in the other pivot table that you're going to build. So here I'm going to make a copy of this particular pivot table here, and then I'll make some tweaks or customizations to that particular table to get the desired data or table I want. So here you can see an option here called copy. So I'll click on copy, and you can find the option to choose the location for the new pivot table that you're building. So choose existing and the respective cell on which you want the pivot table to be built, and click on OK. So you can see the other pivot table being built as an exact copy of the previously built pivot table. So here in the builder of this particular pivot table, now we'll make the customizations necessary for the other or the new pivot table that we are building. So here I'll just remove the values that I do not want. So I've removed the HR in charge row, and I've also removed the data that is the status from here. So now I want to consolidate the data based on the stream. So I've dropped stream into the rows here, and I want the data to be the number of positions. So based on the number of positions available, I can look for the respective people as well. So I've given number of positions as the data here, and you can see the operation taken as sum. So this way you can build pivot tables in a matter of seconds using the already built pivot tables as well. So this way, if you're building pivot tables that are similar to each other, you can simply take a copy of the other pivot table and then make minor tweaks to it as well. So in this demonstration, we saw how we can build a spreadsheet tracker by making the data entry process more quick and consistent. And then we saw how we can highlight the respective desired data that we want. And then we saw how we can use filter to actually narrow down the data that we want to look at. And then we also saw how we can create a dashboard using formulas, pivot tables, and pivot charts as well. So this is just an example of how a spreadsheet tracker can be built using the various features in Zoho Sheet. You can customize these features and formulas that I showed today based on your use case and your data set that you have in your spreadsheet. So hope you all found this demonstration useful. And again, if you would like to know more about the various features that were shown today, if you'd like to know the basics or the other complete customization options of each feature that was shown in the demonstration today, you can take a look at our recorded webinars link that I've given in the description below. Hope you all found the demonstration helpful. If you have any questions about the features in Zoho Sheet, or if you need any help while building your spreadsheet tracker, you can drop us an email at support@zohosheet.com anytime, and we'll be here happy to help you out. And if you have any feedback about this webinar, please do drop them as comments below. Thank you for watching this webinar. Hope you all found it useful. See you all in the next session.